I'm just focused on right here and right now. Like, we got a beautiful team here, and I want to be a part of it. We got a great situation here. My family loves it. I enjoy it. The weather's great. The fans are great. So we got a beautiful situation here, man. Obviously, my parents always taught me, control the controllables, and I only can control so much. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, we all know the NFL is a business. Whatever happens, happens. You know what I'm saying? So moving forward, I would love to be here.
True, true, true. You can only control what you want to control. All right, Dan, your face, what?
Go ahead.
No, you.
Ask it.
Ask? Okay. You sound like dog. Should Tyreek want to leave Miami?
What? Heavenly Father, God give me grace. That's absurd to contemplate, okay? It's absurd to think about him wanting to leave Miami. One, they just gave him $100 million like 5 weeks ago.
He said the weather's nice. His family loves it. Yeah.
Two, last year, late November, this team was the #1 seed in the AFC playoffs. And then they got decimated by injuries. Decimated. This year starts, they get to 1-0, and they've been decimated by injuries. They just played with their third-string quarterback without their left tackle. Starting defensive ends are gone. The corner opposite Jalen's out. To leave Miami? I mean, Maron, what are we talking about? He's gone 120 catches and 1,700 yards in back-to-back seasons in Miami. They're decimated by injuries. They're not a bad organization or a bad football team. They have to get healthy. He had one season over 100 catches in Kansas City. He had one season over 1,300 yards in Kansas City. He's done that both seasons in Miami. No, it's ridiculous to think.
I'm not going to blame you for this, Dan. I'll blame us as a show, and I really not casting blame because we haven't done anything wrong here. It's feeding off of the subject matter involving Tyreek Hill and what I said about his departure from Kansas City and how strictly as a football
What'd you say,
decision,
Stephen A?
I said strictly as a football decision, the worst thing he could have done is leave Patrick Mahomes. If you remember, when he departed from Patrick Mahomes, he was talking about how Tua was comparable to Patrick Mahomes. Then he said a year later that Tua was a more accurate passer than Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowl titles since he's been gone. He hasn't won a playoff game. Now, he's got a Super Bowl, as Molly pointed out yesterday before he departed Kansas City, and he's gotten his bag, like Kimberly Martin pointed out as well. And we all know that the NFL is business. But if I remember correctly, it was never revealed specifically what the offer from Kansas City was that Tyreek Hill turned down to go to Miami for $72 million guaranteed, $120 million overall. When you talk about the lifestyle changes, trust me, I know all too well. Him being in Miami, being near South Beach and all that is a different life, no doubt about it. I got that part. And so when he talks about his family and his environment and his quality of life, it matters. On a very serious level, it does matter. A lot of times people are thinking you're thinking about money, and what you're thinking about is your quality of life, because you can make all the money in the world, but if you're working your ass off all the time and you don't have a life and you're miserable, then how much does the money really mean when you can't utilize it to your advantage because your quality of life is compromised? So I get where he's coming from in that regard. But in the end, we're not talking about him staying in Miami. We're not saying Mike McDaniels is a bad coach. We're not saying the Dolphins are a bad organization, even though they haven't won a playoff game since 2000. We're not saying any of these things. What we're saying is, yo, bro, Tua is in a world of trouble. We don't know what his career is going to be like moving forward. You had the opposition screaming for him to get down because they knew how susceptible he was to concussions. That's the guy you departed from, Patrick Mahomes, to have you throw the football. And you don't know what his future is going to be like. And so I'm saying there's a lot that he's missing out in Kansas City. Not that he should leave Miami, but he's missing out on a lot of what's transpired in Kansas City. That's my point.
Find the
Tyreek Hill's side of this hard to analyze, or I guess give a take on, because I don't know what matters to him. Does winning matter to him? Then yeah, he probably should want to be on the Chiefs or whatever, because this season feels lost for Miami. Does money, lifestyle, quality of life matter more? Then I can see why he would say. But looking at this from the Dolphins' perspective, I don't see why they would move on from him. And that part I can't analyze, because we can look at it from a football perspective. If they were to trade him, they would take a massive cap hit, I think close to $30 million next year, after having just extended him and given him over $20 million this season. And regardless of what happens at quarterback, whether Tua comes back or whether Mike McDaniel decides to draft someone or sign someone in the offseason, they would be better off, obviously, with Tyreek Hill. Mike McDaniel has shown he can build an offense around speed. So it doesn't make sense to me that moving forward they would trade him unless it was a complete and utter rebuild. But I also don't think that they would get the draft capital to make that worth it. So if I'm Miami, I keep Hill and I try to make the most of it with some uncertainty, obviously, at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I also think, in my opinion, Tua is going to come back. That is just the gauge of the whole situation as of right now. I just did their game at Monday Night Football. I'm not sharing anything.
I think he's definitely coming back.
My gauge of the
100%.
situation is that he's going to come back. I think Tua, shortly after that Thursday Night Football concussion, was in a pretty good place. I think that he's been around the football team and wants to be there. I do, Stephen A. I think the competitor in him wants to be the quarterback again. I think that matters to him. So why would
there is no soul that said Tua's not going to come back. What we said is, how long is he going to last once he gets back?
Of course, that's
because of how susceptible. I'm going to repeat this again. You play football. Dan Orlovsky. How many situations in football have you seen? Mina, you cover it better than anybody. How many situations in the world of football have you seen where the opposition confesses in the post-game conference that they were screaming for the opponent to get down?
Sure.
Because they were scared for him. The opponent. They were scared for him. That's how bad it is. That's the word out on Tua. You had people, we were sitting up here as a network and as an industry discussing and contemplating, should the man retire? That's not somebody that you can rely on, is all I'm saying.
So
I wish him nothing but the best.
Let me ask you something real quick, Stephen A. Is your perspective on this when it comes to Tyreek more Kansas City-centric or more the unreliability of the unknown of Tua's future-centric?
The combination of the two. But here's where it's apropos. Mina, I'm saying everybody would love as a wide receiver or a tight end to play with Patrick Mahomes. But he did. He knows what he walked away from. Yeah. And, he won a Super Bowl. He went to back-to-back AFC Championship game, Super Bowl actually, because they lost to Tampa. He's been there. And I'm saying he knows what it is. He knows what he's missing. And what he went to is not what he has now, because Tua is that shaky. I say that respectfully. He's shaky. Dan, I know how much you care about people, bro. And you too, Mina. Don't sit here and act like y'all are not going to be scared to death when Tua drops back to pass and that pass rush is coming on him. Yeah. Y'all all are scared. We're all scared for him. We're scared.
I agree. I get your vantage point. I get your perspective.